Several people have been asking me why I've been hesitant on, or rather delaying on making a video for so long. If the difference in my voice isn't obvious, I lost my voice over the last week. In fact, I had a rather bad bacterial infection. I got some pills, got some meds, it's getting better, it's going away. Today is actually the first day I've been able to talk without pain in about a week now. Actually a little more than a week, which is frustrating because I've had the material ready to go and I've been ready to make this video since about last Thursday. Go figure. So I apologize for the delay. Not really much I could have done about that unless you wanted me to start miming. Let's just move on. Now, first thing here is that I have been asked many, many times by many people in channel comments, in video comments, and in messages, what my thought is the DLC. Now, obviously I'm going to be covering that here. I'm going to go ahead and fling out my opinion right now for those of you who don't wish to watch the entire video. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think they have successfully won their save. I think BioWare is now going to be at the level of any other developer in existence. And that's not necessarily saying the junk, it's just all of the consumer trust, all the loyalty that I had set up with BioWare, but BioWare had earned from me. People had talked about some of the older games, the Baldur's Gates and the Icewind Dales and all that. Yes, I have been a BioWare fan since forever. And it feels very strange to look at a company like that and think, well, I just can't trust their games anymore, but not to make the point, BioWare isn't the first company to do that. Anyone remember when Squaresoft made fantastic games that set the bar for excellence? Because I do. One of my favorite game of all time is a Squaresoft game. I make that point to give an emphasis of how long ago this is, because it's Square Enix. But anyways, moving on. That's my opinion in a nutshell. Now let's go ahead and cover the whys, shall we? Because I don't want anyone to accuse me of being biased here, I'm going to go ahead and quote this word for word. I've got the extended cut DLC release thing here and the FAQ right up here, so I'm just cutting straight, what can we expect from the extended cut DLC? For fans who wanted more closure on Mass Effect 3, the DLC will offer extended scenes that provide additional context and deeper insight to the conclusion of Commander Shepard's journey. I'm going to cover that point in a second. Let's move on to the next thing. Are there going to be more different endings or endings in the future? No. BioWare strongly believes in the team's artistic vision for the end of this arc of the Mass Effect franchise. The extended cut DLC will expand on existing ending, but no further ending is planned. That's important. Third thing. What are they adding with the extended cut DLC? BioWare will be expanding on the ending by creating additional cinematics and epilogue scenes to existing ending sequences. The goal of these new scenes is to provide additional clarity and closure to Mass Effect 3. The rest of the things are when is it, and all that stuff, and it will be free. Now, let's cover this in a few points. Let's really think this out logically, okay? First of all, it's free. You'd like to think that's a point in their favor, but technically it isn't, and here's why. If someone holds a gun to my head and says, say boo, and I say boo, I don't get any credit for that. That's a little esoteric, that's a little random. Let's say someone puts a gun to my head and says, say Cher was a fantastic musician, singer, whatever the hell she was. And I say that does not make it my opinion, because this guy has a gun to my head, right? So I don't get credit for that. That doesn't count. They had no choice but to make this free. If they didn't, they would have been committing publicized suicide. This would have just not worked. And anybody who has worked in any level of marketing or corporate affairs, at any level, even down to the small business area level of a local town or village, will tell you that if you reach a point where the publicity against you is so severe and you try to rectify it and charge them for it... My voice is going out a bit again. Excuse me. No, it just doesn't work that way. They had no choice but to release it free. So, we just eject that out the window. They successfully said yes when the gun was held to their head. So we're just neutralizing that point, okay? Next point. I think I'm going to hit this one next. If you'll forgive me if I ramble a little bit, but I really want to get the point across here. Extended scenes that provide additional context and deeper insight to the conclusion of Commander Shepard's journey, and additional cinematics and epilogue scenes to the existing ending sequences. I'm just quoting both of those right there. I just looked. Now let's go over the ending really quick, shall we? Because I've heard this a lot. I've heard a lot of people who are trying to go with the middle ground approach to the ending and saying it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't conclusive. Well, I disagree, and there's actually a very strong reason for that. The problem is there is nothing left to conclude in the ending. I actually thought the ending as is, if we were to completely remove any of my theories I've put forward, any of the theories several fans have put forward, I've read and watched and seen many theories that many fans have put out, myself included, and I've seen so many different takes on the indoctrination theory. Throw all that out the window, right? All we have is the ending as is, okay? Given that fact, given what we have, it's actually rather complete, in my opinion. It is very closed. It's very self-contained, and part of the reason why is one of the things Mass Effect has always done is said something without saying it. There's an artistic term for that I can't think of right now, but it basically means showing or implying something, so you don't have to come out and say, "Bob is being hit by a bullet right now." Instead, he walks up and there's a bullet wound there. You know, that's the kind of thing. That's a very minor example, but you get what I'm talking about. My point is, everything we saw in the ending very clearly ends the story of Mass Effect, very solidly. So let's cover this real quick, shall we? First of all, let's just assume... I'm not going to bother going over the 3 different endings. Let's just assume the ending as an overall, right? What happens is the Reapers are stopped. One way or another, the Reapers are stopped. Okay. The Reapers either leave, or are destroyed, or become one with us, whatever. The end, right? Reaper story. Done. Chopped off. There's nothing else to add there. The AI, one way or another, story is stopped until the next cycle at the very least. You know, several of the endings have the possibility, of the cycle continuing within the next... the story continuing within the next cycle. But for the immediacy... the AI godchild, Casper the genocidal ghost is gone, right? The end. That story is done. Chopped. Done. Alright. Shepard. Gone. Chopped. Done. Alright. And don't give me that breathing amongst the wreckage thing. That was unnecessary in every sense of the word, and I'll go into why in a moment. But even if Shepard was alive... I don't think it matters. I'll continue why in a moment, because let's really think about this as from a setting perspective. Let's think about this not as a game and not as a story, but as something that actually happened. Okay, so the explosion goes off. What we saw is threefold. There's 3 really big points here. 1, Mass Effect relays gone. So I don't know how much you paid attention to the lore and the backstory and the codex of Mass Effect, but without the Mass Effect relays, galactic travel basically doesn't exist. I mean, it does. There is such a thing as FTL drive, but the degree to which it is slower than the Mass Effect jumping is by a factor of a ridiculous amount. Galactic travel is now going to be restrained to sectors at most. For example, if you remember the galactic map and there was, Tachanka over here and Earth over here, those planets are probably never going to interact again within several generations, and generations. So that's probably not happening, just to give you an idea. And that's just this distance right here. Never mind going way up here and all the stuff that was there. Or how about Omega, which was way over here? That's... the entire galaxy just got segregated. Sorry. And... so that's the first point. Galactic civilization effectively just stopped existing. Civilization may continue. That's debatable. I'll go into why in a moment. But galactic civilization, the galactic community, just ceased to exist. Okay. Point 1. That's the first point. Point 2. The Citadel is gone. Now, you may count this as the same part of the Mass Effect relays, but the Citadel no longer being useful as a functional thing essentially means that there is no longer any kind of hub, which means forming a new galactic community is going to be involved starting over completely fresh, which is going to take time and effort and blah blah blah. So far we've got the picture that galactic existence just got rebooted, basically. Now let's cover point 3. How much you choose to read into this is a matter of debate and opinion, but all I'm going to say is my opinion based on what they showed us in the ending. The pulses that the Mass Effect relays set off that were either red, blue, or green. Sorry, the Crayola ending. The pulses that were sent off basically covered the entire galaxy, right? No exceptions. Everything was covered. Full, 3-dimensional coverage of the galaxy based on the spread of the relays, blah, 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 right? Everyone with that? So, any planets that weren't affected by those would have to be on the absolute outermost rim, if anything was unaffected, okay? Everyone with me on this? We saw the Normandy trying to outrace one of those, failing, getting hit by it, and crashing as a result, to severe damage, I might add. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the ridiculously random chance that they could crash anywhere that actually has a breathable atmosphere. Let's just ignore that concept for a moment. That's just, I don't even want to think about that. But the Normandy is trashed and crashes as a result of getting hit by that wave. The Normandy does. What do you think happened to the other 1,000, 100,000, 20 bajillion ships in the entire galaxy that also got hit by this wave? Because the wave hit the whole galaxy, we just covered that. What about any space stations that are out there? What about the Omega Station itself? What happened to that asteroid? What happened to all of these places? Now, I admit, the Normandy is a relatively small ship. Even the Normandy SR-2 is only about the size of a light cruiser, so it's possible some of the bigger ships could have weathered the storm, so to speak. But let's think about all those ships that are now, for example, stranded at Earth. Let's say that some of those ships actually survived, you know, the initial explosion, which is debatable, but I'll allow that it is possible. What are those people going to go now? That's completely ignoring the fact that it's mentioned many, many times. You know, there's I can't actually remember. There's amino-based and there's something else, but dextro-based, I want to say. You know, the Turians and the Quarians literally are incompatible digestive-wise with the food humans eat and with you know, food Solarians eat and blah 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 blah. So all those ships are now trapped in the Sol system with Earth, which doesn't have that kind of food. You get where I'm going with all this? I'm trying to cover the details, and at the same time I'm trying not to, because it feels like I'm getting a little too geeky, but part of my problem, personally, is I tend to think about things. I tend to analyze things to the nth degree, and all I can think about when I see that wave, and I see the effects of it on the Normandy, and I see the effects of it on the galaxy, is that everyone is screwed. Everyone! You know, let's take a positive outcome of this and say that all those ships ended up crashing on Earth or on the Moon or on Mars, you know, whatever happened to be nearest to. Now what? They can't get those ships back in the air. They don't have food stores to survive longer than a few, I don't know, months at most, even in the cruisers' cases. And then what? Oh, they call for help for the people who can't reach there in years because they're limited to FTL drive now? You get the concept. They're screwed. There's nothing else. There's no hope there. There's no. We're talking a Fallout civilization here. For any of you who aren't aware of what I'm talking about, there's a series of games called the Fallout games. I do highly recommend them. They're fantastic RPGs. And what the basic premise, which I'm only going to cover very briefly, is that the nuclear war actually happens. The Earth is completely devastated, and only a very, 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 very small percentage of people, you know, it's still millions of people survive, but millions of people when considered to the population of the Earth is relatively small. Now, that's actually only in the US, but whatever, we're moving on. Point being, yes, they keep going. Yes, there is civilization afterwards. Yes, the story continues. But the story of the planet Earth up until the war stopped. And that's the point I'm trying to get across here. With that explosion, with the detonation of the Mass Effect relays, with the annihilation of the galactic community, there is no closure. It's over! They stopped! There's a line here, and it cannot be passed unless they bring a magic bunny out of their hat. Now, given the stuff they pulled... Excuse me, I almost cursed there. Given the stuff they pulled with the galactic godchild, that wouldn't surprise me if they pulled this magic rabbit out and say, "Woo, everything is great." But I don't think so, to be completely honest. They're too touched their autistic vision, which I'm not even going to get into. And let's just go over this one more thing. I just want to cover a couple more points here really quick. Closure, right? Okay, closure for Shepard. Shepard is either dead, and, you know, decisively dead, or not quite dead, but probably going to die soon. Okay. That's okay. Shepard, closed, done. All right. All your crewmates. Okay, all your crewmates who managed to get to the Normandy and survived are now in some alien world somewhere. We have no idea where. Thankfully, it's a breathable atmosphere, but as I just mentioned, there's that food problem. So it is entirely possible that half your crew who can eat, you know, dextro-based food or whatever, are going to be fine, and half your crew who can eat amino-based food or whatever are going to be fine, and the other half are just going to get to starve to death slowly, and that's going to be wonderful for them. So there's their closure. They, you know, maybe managed to eke out another one of those, you know, fall of advanced civilization, restarting from their roots thing that sci-fi loves so much, civilization. So that's their closure. Boom, closed. Let's see, everyone on the Citadel. Oh! That's right! They're all dead and turned into a shop of horrors as part of the artistic vision of the ending. So, they're closed. There's closure there. What else do we got? Anderson, dead. Closure. Admiral Hackett. I'll give you Admiral Hackett's kind of a wild card because we don't know what happened with him, but given everything I talked about with the wave and the destruction of the ships, let's just say that the very best possible circumstances, Hackett survived, along with pockets of humanity, to help start the new civilization. Okay. Closure. Done. We're done here. What else is there? The Geth are probably dead in most given endings, given the fact that I believe, that I could be wrong about this, that the red ending, I refuse to call it anything else, the red ending was the correct ending, the canon ending. The Geth are dead, so alright, Geth are dead! Closure! Moving on. The Quarians, the Quarians, probably have their own thing. You know, they've lost their fleet, obviously, but, you know, they at least finally managed to land back on the planet, so they might be able to make a new civil... So, okay, the Quarians start over, just like the Earth people did. You know, just like the humans did over Earth. Okay, so Quarians start over. The Krogan. Oh yeah, that's right. Rex, the only Krogan who really had demonstrated throughout the entire series the ability to actually have a brain and think about the future rather than the now, is dead or crash-landed on some alien planet somewhere. So the Krogan have just lost their most intelligent, wise, powerful leader they've ever had in history. I don't think the Krogan's future is going to be very bright. I gotta be honest with you. So, whatever. In best case scenario, the Krogan... I could keep doing this forever. What closure is it exactly that you people can give us? I'm sorry if I sound angry, but it's because I am. You're going to provide closure with the ending? There is closure in the ending. There is no additive to add to this. And everyone who says, oh, we just wanted closure, we wanted real closure. We didn't want the game to stop. There's a difference between something ending and something stopping. There is a difference between the two. It's kind of hard to define, but something that ends... forgive me for using a television show example. Star Trek Deep Space Nine ended. It really did. There were no loose ends. There was no anything else. You know, Sisko was gone. And you could say whatever you want about him coming back. Sisko was gone. You know, Worf doing his own thing. Kira take over the station. Excuse me, Nog gets his promotion to work on the station. Jake gets the career he always wanted. What's-her-face has the baby. You know, I could keep going again. The story ended. Everything finished. There was no loose ends of any real note or worth. You know, obviously there are a few minor ones, but that's going to happen in any creative work. A story stopping, not counting Serenity. Let's ignore Serenity for a moment. Firefly, not counting Serenity, stopped. It just ceased. It stopped to exist. Now, this is actually a severe example, but the point being, Serenity never continued. The Firefly never ended. Firefly never concluded. Firefly just stopped. And, alright, well, we can extrapolate what else happened, but there's no need to, because it's kind of obvious what happened, you know? You could argue the same thing about Serenity, but I don't want to get into that argument right now. Point being, Mass Effect 3 did not end. It stopped. What we wanted was what I wanted was real closure. I wanted an ending. Now, a lot of people have compared my proposed ending, the very first video I did, to a combination of Return of the Jedi, the original, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And I'd say that's fairly valid, actually, and I really don't... You know, if people meant that as an insult, that's great, but personally, I take that as a compliment. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a conclusion. I wanted the celebration. I wanted the epilogue and the epilogue and the epilogue. I wanted to know that things had successfully finished, and I wanted to know what happened afterwards. As far out as you're willing to go. You know, if you're willing to go out as far as you'd like, and it wouldn't be that hard. You know, what I wanted was the Dragon Age thing. I wanted the epilogue that said, now that this happened, you know, now that Orzammar has had what's-his-face in the king for the next several generations as he leads the king, though he was brutal and tyrannical and despotical, he was also progressive. And so the dwarves started opening up, and the caste lists were given choices again, and you know, trade with the outside world. I want to know what happens in the next generation, the next century. And I know this is just me. As with always, this is just my opinion, but I wanted more than just rocks fall, everyone dies. Yes, it did conclude. If Mass Effect 3's story stopped, there is closure there, but there is closure in the sense of the Fallout sense. The bombs fell, and now the story has been rebooted, and they can do whatever they want with the sequels. Rant off. Sorry, I really didn't mean to get that excited about this. I've been thinking about this for the last week as I've been unable to talk. And I don't know what the hell it is they think they're going to get out of this, you know? Now let me go into the next point. I have been crafting an analogy to try and explain why it is, because so many people do not really seem to understand why it is people like me are so upset about this ending. And I think I've finally come up with a well-crafted analogy that explains it succinctly. And I'd like to start this analogy, before I even start actually getting into the analogy, I want to say that, in my opinion, this whole extended, what do they call it? The extended cut DLC failed out of the gate. This was their saving throw. They rolled a 1. They have failed. The reason why is this one sentence. Where is it? Right here. BioWare strongly believes in the team's artistic vision for the end of this arc of the Mass Effect franchise. So, I'll expound on that a little bit in my analogy here. But as soon as I read that sentence, I knew they had failed. The problem, before I go into the analogy, I'm sorry. The problem, in a nutshell, is the fact that they are pretending it's our fault. They're never said it outright, but every single news post, every single comment that they have made, every single official announcement, all the people who have been defending them have all tried to make it out that it is our fault, the people who are upset about the ending, not the ending's fault, not the game's fault, not the developer's fault, not the writer's fault. It is purely us. We are wrong. And now they are willing to reach us halfway because you think there's a problem. We'll go ahead and, try and appease you because you don't like this for some reason. You get where I'm going with the attitude of that. Really bothers me. And that is why they have failed. Now, let me pull this analogy out here really quick, okay? Let's say you're out and going to a random bar or party or whatever. You meet some random person. Now, I don't mean hook up. You can say it that way if you want, but let's just say this is some random guy. I'm a guy, right? So I meet some other guy. He's cool. He likes Mario Kart. Sure, that's generic enough. And so he wants to come over and play Mario Kart for a bit. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. We drive over and we play Mario Kart. And I've never met this guy in my life. I learn his name, a little bit about him. We play Mario Kart. It's great, decent fun. It wasn't as fun as it could be, but whatever. He leaves for the night. I check around and I find out that he stole my shoes. Now, these are my nice shoes. These are my work shoes, the one I wear every day. I'm wearing them right now. And these were kind of expensive because they're posture supporting and blah, blah, blah. And so the fact is, those cost me a bit of money. I'm a little bit upset about this, but now here's the kicker. Ultimately, maybe this is just me, but ultimately, I really have no one to blame but myself. I'm not that upset. Yes, I'm upset, obviously, but ultimately all I do is kind of shrug and say, oh well, because it was some random guy. It was some completely random guy that I met at a bar who wanted to come over and hang out and happened to steal my shoes. I did it to myself, Now, I'll go ahead and break the analogy for a moment to explain a little bit. This is just some random game developer in the place of the guy. Some completely random person, who I've never heard of before. I've only heard of do a couple games before, and I decided to play their game, and it was decent, it was fun, and it was disappointed me. And in the end, my shoes were stolen. I use shoes specifically because it's not like he broke into my house and killed my kid or anything. No. It was just my shoes. It's not a huge deal, and I am upset about it, but I did it to myself. Let's keep going with this analogy. Let's say I invite over my best friend. In this case, this would be Pax. I invite Pax over and I say, yo, hey, let's hang out. Let's do it. Pax is the kind of guy I'd trust to watch my kid. This is someone who is a trusted friend. I've known him for decades at this point. Well, decade and a half. I've known this guy. I trust him. He's cool. For God's sakes, everything's cool. If we want to continue this analogy in its fullest, we could say he's been hanging with a bad crowd lately. Yay. But the point being, I invite him over. We hang out, we have fun, we play Mario Kart, we play Smash Brothers Brawl, we play Call of Duty, whatever it is we feel like doing, Left 4 Dead, Mass Effect 3, whatever it is we feel like doing. And we have fun with it, and it's a decent night, and it was fun. Obviously, he was a little flirty during the course of the night, but that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And so, he leaves for the night, and everything's good, and I go and check, and my shoes are gone. Again, my work shoes, my expensive shoes, my shoes I wear every day. Now, my reaction to this is going to be very, very different than my reaction to the random stranger whose name I barely knew, stealing my shoes, because this is my friend. Now, I want to make this point very clear, because it has been intimated and stated outright several times, not just to me, but to several people with complaints about the ending, that our expectations were just high. We had too high of hopes, and they couldn't possibly possibly deal with that? It's just, it doesn't work that way. We had a pie in the sky dreams, and anything they did would have been insufficient, right? I disagree completely. I really do. I flat disagree. This was not hype. This was trust. This was us trusting someone that we had trusted, that had built up loyalty in us, their customers, for years with multiple games. And it might have taken a hit. Some of us started to see the cracks in Dragon Age 2. I admit, Dragon Age 2 I did like. It was worse than any other game they'd ever made, but I still liked Dragon Age 2. But the point was, they still had my trust. I still believed in them. I still thought BioWare could do this. In the analogy, they were still my friend. And they stole my shoes. At this point, I am not feeling slightly upset or miffed. I'm feeling betrayed. Because I can't believe this. Now let's keep this analogy going here, because this really is important, I think, to really get this point across. I call my friend, Pax in this case. I really shouldn't do this. Pax would never actually do this to me. But that's a good example, because I do trust Pax. I would trust him with my child, blah, blah, blah. So I call Pax up and I say, yo, where are my shoes? Have you seen them? I would approach it almost kind of comically at first, like, with a level of disbelief, because I can't believe he didn't. He was like, yeah, I took them. What? You took my shoes? Yeah, that's why I came over there, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had fun. I intended to have fun, but I needed those shoes, so I intended to take them. Okay. Are you going to give them back? No. What? And the disbelief. I'm sure if several of you can equate to this, you can understand the feeling after just watching that ending and really get this point across, because it's just like, what? And then so we go to BioWare, and what does BioWare say? I don't have all the responses up on my webpage here. I can't pull them up as of this moment to detail all the specific responses, but everything BioWare has been saying in response to us is basically, yeah, this is the ending. Yeah, this was always intended to be the ending. Yes, we designed this from the beginning. Yes, this is our artistic vision. We stand firm behind their thing. They're acting like it's our problem, to continue the analogy. Well, of course, I mean, what? You have a problem with me taking your shoes? Yes, I have a problem with... Well, okay. Tell you what. Because you took because I took your shoes, and you're upset about this. I'm not sure why, but you're upset about me stealing your shoes, it's okay, I'm your friend, I understand. So I'll go ahead and buy you dinner next week. Not giving you your shoes back. You'll have to figure that out. But I'll go ahead and buy you dinner next week. My treat, We'll go to McDonald's or something. So, you get where I'm coming with here? They are trying to meet us halfway, but they're doing it because we have the problem, because they're acting like we are the ones at fault, because we're so upset about this ending, and so, okay, to meet your unreasonable demands, we will be the magnanimous ones. We will be the ones who go ahead and say, sure, go ahead, and, we'll give you this free DLC, just so you'll shut up about it. And I may be reading a little bit too much into this, but speaking as someone who has been... it's been my job to interpret corporatese for like God, it's actually been quite a while, hasn't it? It's been about 16 years I've been doing that. Point being, that's all this smacks of to me. All this smacks of is we are trying to reach out to you, and they're trying to it's a level of passive aggressiveness. They're trying to imply, whether they mean it or not, that it's our fault, and they're going to go ahead and be the good guys in the situation, and try and meet us halfway. They refuse to apologize for what they actually did wrong, and they stand by it, but they insist, okay, we'll meet you halfway. You see where I'm going with this? That is why they have failed their saving role. That is why, because the attitude behind this is completely wrong. I don't care if they come up with an ending where Shepard rides the super unicorn pony fairy dust thing and makes the entire world filled with amazingness. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with my words right now. I don't care. Their attitude walking into it has already failed them, in my opinion. In my opinion, they have already failed because of the way they're approaching it. I've always been someone to say that why you do things is as important, if not more important, than what you do. And their attitude this entire time has unfailingly been the fact that they're right, but they, okay, we'll go ahead and meet you halfway. And that's not good enough. I'm sorry. Being unwilling to accept that you have made a mistake, well, actually, to be quite honest with you, the word I would use for that is childish. One of the things I've always said that being an adult is about is being willing to accept I'm wrong. Being willing to say, I made a mistake, I did something wrong, I'm willing to own up and take the responsibility for it, take the punishment for it if need be. I've always said that's one of the things about being an adult. That's my opinion, obviously. But to say it's not my fault, it's not me, there were mitigating circumstances, blah, 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 blah. No. And I'm sorry. I've already talked longer than I meant to, because there's one more thing I want to talk about. But all of this combined is why it is BioWare has failed me, to put it completely frankly. And so I still have Mass Effect 3 installed, and I will go ahead and try this new DLC. But suffice it to say, I'm fairly certain this will be my last Mass Effect 3 video, because I don't think there's anything else to be said. Except for the last thing I want to say here. There's nothing else. They failed. And it's like I said in my last video, BioWare doesn't exist anymore. It's just like happened with Squaresoft. Just like happened with Westwood, for anyone who remembers them, or Maxis. Anyone remember them? They're gone. What we have now is an amalgamation. I never know how to pronounce that word. A combination of what used to be and what is and what will be, and it's not good enough anymore. BioWare is now the random guy in the bar, and they have no trust, and they have no anything, and bringing them over to my house or hanging out with them is now a risk from this point on. And they will now have to justify against the automatic negative connotations they have earned based on their actions. And that brings me to my last point. This is going to get a little serious, so if you feel like stopping watching this, feel free. And also, to head off anybody who's going to be, you didn't cover this, or you're wrong about this, let me just say that what I'm doing is extremely generalizing, and I'm not going into too many specifics because that would make this video 3 hours long, okay? But speaking as someone who has a degree in accounting, speaking as someone who has worked in corporate business, okay? And works in corporate business. The way this works is we here, in real life, the consumers, now have the ultimate choice, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. In a series that has been all about choices, we now have a choice. And the irony is that choice is so disconnected from what will result of that choice, it's not even funny. Let me lay this out for you as best as I'm able. Very generalized. I'm not going over all the details. I really want to emphasize it. Please don't message me saying, you forgot this and this and this. No, I'm generalizing. I don't want to have a 3-hour video. We have a choice of continuing to buy games of the Mass Effect label, of the BioWare label, of the EA label, or of stopping. This is our choice now. We can continue to support them financially, or we can cease to support them financially. That seems like a simple choice, doesn't it? The problem is, the way real life works, that is actually an incredibly complicated, incredibly intricate choice. Now let me try and give you some information. I want to stress again one more thing. I am not trying to encourage anybody to pick one or the other. You can choose whether you continue to support them with your money or you cease to support them with your money based on your own admission. But I just want to give some information out there to give you something to chew on, okay? Something to think about. Let's assume we stop. Let's assume we stop purchasing, let's really narrow this down, BioWare games. Let's just, boom. BioWare games get chopped off at sale, right? Now, one thing I want to stress, any company that has a proper accountant, the accounting department and the budget department are aware of every individual sale and lack of sale. That's something some people don't seem to think. They think, your subscription doesn't matter. No, it does. They do know about that. The catch is that the people who actually make the decisions don't always know about your sale. But it is worth noting that somebody at that company is well aware of the fact that you do or do not purchase their order. Okay? First thing. Let's say we don't. Let's say the numbers start to dip. A sufficient number of people do this that the numbers dip a percentage or 3 or 5 or 20. And the accounting people and the budget people and the analyst people and all those 3 departments that work on that sort of thing get the numbers together and they say, okay, here's what's happening. The BioWare name is falling off. Now let's look at one half of what could happen. What could happen is the executives in charge get the reports and they get the line graphs and they say, okay, BioWare sales are down. Let's stop BioWare. Let's chop it up, discontinue the BioWare name, and distribute it to the rest of our assets. This has happened before. This has happened before with EA. I just feel like stressing this. EA has actually done this before, so there's plenty of precedent. I shouldn't have to explain how this works. But it is entirely possible and plausible that they will just chop up BioWare and say, here, you go work in this, and you go work in this, and we'll just absorb you into EA overall, and you will now be a part of us. The end. Moving on. And as a result, there will be no more BioWare games. There will be no actual Dragon Age 3. What we will get is Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun, or Dawn, or Twilight. Twilight is the one I'm thinking of, sorry. The one that came out recently that was terrible. You know, that wasn't done by Westwood. That was done by these people that had been shoveled together by EA. So, that's an excellent example of a real-life example of how that could work. You know, the Dragon Age name will still continue because EA still owns that copyright, but you get the point here. So what we will have effectively just done is killed BioWare. Okay. One other possibility. Let's say we stop playing BioWare games. Let's say we stop buying BioWare games, and so they present the money, and they notice that BioWare specifically is going down, and they say, damn it. Okay, obviously we're losing sales. All right, what we need to do, I'm going to go ahead and fund an emergency thing. We're going to go ahead and double the budget of the current BioWare team, and I want you to get that new game out now. They will probably be a little bit stringent on the release date of it. You know, we want it for Christmas, because that's usually the time they want these things. But here's your money, go make the game. All the people involved get raises, all the people involved get more budget to work with for CGI, for development time, for extra man hours, you know, working overtime, whatever it is. People are slightly more motivated as a result of the extra money coming in, because that is what motivates most people who work in a job. Let's just be honest. And they come out with Dragon Age 3, and Dragon Age 3 is fantastic. It's like, oh yes, awesome. And so we buy Dragon Age 3 out that, you know, to hell and back. And they're like, yes, that was the right choice. All right, keep giving the budget to BioWare. Let's keep making great games. That is also a possibility. For if we choose to stop purchasing BioWare labels as of this moment. Now let's look at the other side. Let's say we continue to buy BioWare labels. Let's say we continue to say, I'm going to keep supporting them so that they can get better, or because I believe in them, or because I owe it to them for loyalty's sake. And I can understand that. I'm someone who has a great deal of personal loyalty. You know, one of the reasons I still work at this company, despite the fact that several of my bosses have pissed me off to the point where I wanted to physically inflict bodily harm upon them, is because I have a great deal of loyalty to it. So I understand that concept. You don't have to explain that to me. So let's say we continue to be loyal customers and we give them money. And let's look at one possibility of what happens with that. Oh, people are still buying our games. Fantastic. We get the numbers. BioWare games are still being sold. You know, the numbers haven't really gone up that much, but they're staying static. Let's stay the course. You know, obviously, everything we did with the budget cuts and with the time restraint cuts and keeping them at their current level of fiscal responsibility is a good idea. And so what they're going to keep, if you'll forgive me for the quote of Yahtzee here, zero punctuation if you've never watched the show, what they're going to do is keep throwing out gray wallpaper paste, because people keep buying gray wallpaper paste. And so we have successfully encouraged them to continue shoveling us, you know, neutral, bad, or worse games because we keep buying them. That's one possibility. Second possibility, we keep putting out the money and they say, awesome, people are buying BioWare games, you know, the numbers are up, this is fantastic, you know, we're gonna keep BioWare as you are, you guys keep doing your thing, what we're gonna do is give you a little bit more budget oversight. We're going to go into we're going to hire Bob over here. Bob is going to be in charge of budget oversight, and he's going to be in charge of implementing this new raise increase we're giving to half your employees, blah, 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 because we have the money to do so, because people have been buying your games, and the people are like, yes, we did it, we got our raises, we got our extra time, we could work overtime, our budget's increased, let's go out and make a great game. And again, to use Dragon Age 3 as an example, Dragon Age 3 comes out and it's fantastic. Now, I hope you've been paying attention to all this. I've been trying to cover this as quickly and as succinctly as I can, but I guess the bottom line here is that the difference, the levels and layers of complexity that exist between me, or anyone watching this video, and our wallets, the difference between here and the game that comes out is so vast and has so many layers in between it, that for all intents and purposes, what this comes down to is a complete disconnect. Which brings me to my final point. I've always felt, if you'll forgive me for going on a brief tangent here, that it's difficult to understand large quantities, large numbers. You know, you think about the word a billion, right? That's a good round number. Most people don't have the ability to understand what a billion means. Yes, they can think of it mathematically. At least they can understand that it's, you know, 1,000 million, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter, right? Picture it. Picture a billion. Visualize a billion. Not the numbers. A billion something. A billion people. picture a billion people. Really put it in your mind. Really understand it. Really, what happens with most people, and this is not an insult to anyone or anything, I have the exact same problem, just like 90% of all people ever do, is that we look at a billion and our mind just kind of processes it as a statistic, not as a billion people, if you understand what I mean. We look at a person, and we see a person. We see Bob or Margaret or John or whoever. And we can personally connect there. There's a degree of understanding. There's a degree of mental comprehension there that's just immediate. You don't even have to think about it. It's Bob. You see, let's even break it down. 10,000 people. All of a sudden, that's just a crowd. Your brain doesn't process Bob and Margaret and John and Alfred and Johnny and Spread Eagle. Your brain processes a crowd. What I'm getting to here is that I've always felt that things that are of large quantity need to be ultimately brought down to the personal level. Morden himself in Mass Effect 2 has a beautiful speech, which is one of my favorite things, my favorite speeches he's ever had, or anyone has ever had in the Mass Effect series, where he talks about why he's doing this, why he's saving the galaxy, because it's so hard. He says everything I just said. In better words, of course, because he's written and well acted and all that. He says, you can't quantify the galaxy in your mind. I want to have a personal stake in it. I want someone, a face, that I can see. And he says it's for his favorite nephew, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about here. So what did Mass Effect mean and feel? What did BioWare, what does, as of this moment, BioWare feel to you? Completely ignore, the numbers and the statistics and the possibilities and all the billions of things that could and would and may and should happen. When it really comes down to it, think about it personally. Think about it, how it has affected you and how it has affected your life. Now, if you've been paying attention to the tone and the word choice of my various videos I've been doing, you probably understand where my choice is. I will not be buying BioWare products anytime in the near future. I state that openly. And the reason is because I invited a friend over to my house and he stole my shoes. And that's not cool. And I'm not saying choosing to forgive that friend is a bad thing. Quite the contrary. I understand that sort of forgiveness. But me, personally, my choice? No. There's no forgiveness here. There's no forgetting here. You stole my damn shoes and you did it on purpose. And you're not apologetic for it. They are not apologetic for Mass Effect 3's ending. They are not apologetic for what they did to a game series that I loved. And there's one final thing I really want to say that ties all this together. I don't know how many of you are fans of Babylon 5. It's a TV series. I consider it to be one of the greatest TV shows ever made. I know that's a bit debatable, and I don't want to get into such a debate, but the reason I bring it up is because one of the reasons I always felt Babylon 5 was so well done was because the obvious... the way they did it, the ineffable quality, the intangibles that they put into it. The writing was certainly good, and the acting was certainly good, and all the tangible, real things you could talk about, but there was just a little bit extra of something that you can't quite define that was really there, and I think it is best summarized by a speech JMS himself put out sometime after they did a few straight-to-TV, low-budget films, right? What it came down to was, he was asked, are you going to do anything else? And his response was no. He said, no, I'm discontinuing the series, and he has this whole speech. I'm not going to say it all for you. I don't wish to bore you that long, but he says several very important points. The series deserves better. The surviving actors deserve better. The setting deserves better. The characters deserve better. You, as in the viewers, deserve better. And he wanted to let us know that the only thing he would ever consider doing would be a full-budget movie, which I've heard rumors might actually start happening, possibly. Yay. Because he felt that we deserved that. All of us. And his final words are what I really want to emphasize here. Just wanted to let you know, because this is your series too. And I cannot possibly say how much I think that is right. The Mass Effect series was a series we actually invested ourselves in. Yes, we didn't make it. Yes, we didn't we didn't sit down and put the man-hours into coding it and writing it and voice acting it, but we put something of ourselves into it. I've often heard people say it's just a game. Unfortunately, those people are incredibly stupid. I'm sorry. Saying it's just a game is like saying it's just a car, or saying it's just a hobby, or saying it's just a model, or saying it's just an alcohol. Any hobby, anything you do to make your life more enjoyable is just a blank. in that concept. And I disagree with that, because even though it's just a bunch of ones and zeros on a screen, and even though it's just a game that's just for entertainment, let's be honest with ourselves, we put some of ourselves into that, didn't we? We invested our time, our effort, our energy, and our caring into it. We actually put some of ourselves, some of our lives, into this video game. Now, the degree and extent to which that matters, of course, varies wildly, and that's fine. But speaking personally, I really cared about this series. I really cared about several of these characters. I really wanted more. I really invested. That's the word I want. I really invested into the Mass Effect series, and I know I'm not the only one. So all the people, I've heard this said before, all the people at BioWare and the people who are defending BioWare have said, it's their game. They can do whatever they want with their game. You know what? No. It is not their game. It is our game. And I don't mean just ours, because that's also wrong. It's not just the gamers. It's our game, and it's their game. And it's ironic, isn't it? Because I'm making this point on the Mass Effect series, whose one of the major themes I've always said, if not the major theme, is unity despite difference. There should have been a unity between us. There should have been an us. The developers, the producers, the voice actors, everyone involved in making the game and everyone involved in playing the game should have been together. And in Mass Effect 3, we were not. And once again, I find myself ending on a melancholy note. But I really wanted to get that point across. I do not think it is their game and they have the right to do whatever they want with it. I think it is our game, theirs and ours. And we the gamers should have, I shouldn't say a say, because I disagree with that too, but we should be considered to be mattered. It should matter what we think about it. It should matter what we feel about it. Our opinion should count for something. We shouldn't be able to go up and say, well, I want more pink elephants in the game. That's stupid. I'm not saying that. I'm saying JMS summarized it so well. You, the viewers, deserve better. Just like the people making the series deserve better. We both deserved better than what we got with Mass Effect 3. Now, I want to make one final point, because I just keep hearing this over and over in my comments. People keep saying, oh, you're wrong, the game had passion. These people obviously weren't listening to me very carefully. If you'll forgive me for being blunt. Yes, there were scenes that clearly had the Mass Effect spark behind them. Morden's death scene. Holy God, I actually cried at that scene. Thane's death scene. I cried at that one, too. Legion's death scene. I know there's a theme here going. But there were several very strong, very powerful moments in Mass Effect 3, and I'm not arguing that. But as many people have pointed out, and as I myself have pointed out, at a certain point in time, it became obvious that the quality just did this. And there were cracks. Now, admittedly, the cracks wouldn't bug me. They really wouldn't. I can overlook cracks for quality, if not for that nosedive towards the end. And the fact that they're standing by it. No, we were right to have this nosedive at the end. So, bottom line, this will be my last Mass Effect 3 video. I'm done with it. I don't mean this as an insult to you, the viewers who are watching this, or Mass Effect 3 itself, or anything, or anyone else. The simple fact of the matter is, I am done with Mass Effect 3. I'll play that DLC as a curiosity at this point. I expect nothing out of it. I expect nothing good or interesting or exciting. I'll probably go into it expecting to be disappointed, and then I'll be disappointed, and then I'll move on. But that's it. And then I'm uninstalling it and walking away. I may still replay Mass Effect 1 and 2 in the future. In fact, I probably will, but I will not be replaying Mass Effect 3 anymore. And for those of you curious, I have stopped replaying Mass Effect 3. It's stopped holding my interest. I got through the scene at Tuchanka, which was still incredible and still heartwarming, or heart-string-tugging, saddening, whatever. But I got to a certain point, and it's like... So this is actually my longest video yet. I apologize sincerely. But if anyone has any further questions, feel free to toss them at me. If anyone has any requests for me to look at any other games, feel free to toss those at me. I would rather this not be my last video I ever do. But regardless, thank you for watching.